Hi, Gavriella. Thank you so much for joining us on the 55 and 5 podcast. It is such an honor to have you with us today.
It is always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So we're a year into this pandemic, and I'm curious to know how has work changed for you and your team at Microsoft this year?
Well, there has been a lot of adaptation. All of the plans that we had to shift around and think, how do we do this in a much more virtual way? But how do we continue to stay connected to our partners? One of the, I think, benefits of working from home and really the travel restrictions is that we actually have more time. And yet we need to be even more connected. So we've, increased the amount of kind of checkpoints and roundtables that we do with our partners, because there isn't the opportunity to just fly by when we're visiting someplace and connect. So, really trying to adapt to that change. I think we've all had to become a lot more resilient, and get better at setting boundaries for ourselves so that work doesn't become a 24-hour sport. And then really spending a lot of time personally, putting people first, making sure that they're taking care of their mental health, that we have new ways of connecting, that aren't putting a burden. Initially we had a lot of additional meetings to try and connect people, but then we realized those were a lot of overhead. And you have to balance that with the fatigue that comes from always being on camera. And so, doing a lot to figure out how we really help people thrive in this environment.
Perfect. And speaking about connecting people, let's shift our focus towards some exciting releases this year. So could you speak a little bit about the release of Microsoft Viva and also Microsoft's focus on, I guess, the harder to define aspects of remote/hybrid way of working, I guess?
Yeah. Well, so Microsoft Viva really brings together communications, knowledge, learning, and insights into that single integrated employee experience directly in Teams that we hope empowers people and their teams to be the best wherever and however they work. So the integration is designed to bring the organization and the flow to all the elements that a worker needs to be successful. We really want people to work smarter, not longer. We want them to be able to find what they're looking for and any training they need to complete in a simple way. And it's going to make it easier for organizations to foster that culture of communication and community, even if their teams are scattered all over the world. So I'm really excited to use Viva and see the impact that it can have in those first three things, right? Helping us be more resilient, putting people first, and helping us stay connected. We already have some great partnerships for Viva, including Accenture and Avanade, ServiceNow, EY, and several more.
Great, perfect. And in the context of this COVID-19 pandemic, what has been the thinking at the top table in Microsoft? How do you, as an organization, see the future of work?
Well, hopefully, if we've learned anything through this pandemic, it is that it's okay to have a much more flexible schedule, that it's okay to have employees work at home, that they don't fall off a cliff and stop being productive, and in many cases are more productive and dedicate more time to work because they don't have to travel and they don't have all of the commute time. During this current global economic climate and this time of uncertainty, the biggest learning is that no business is immune to a crisis and no organization is 100% resilient. But it has taught us that digital businesses and those fortified with digital capabilities have been able to pivot more rapidly to respond to those customer needs. Organizations need the capability to digitally connect every facet of their business, and I hope that that is a lasting impact from the learning out of this pandemic. Is that we have created now these networks to do that digital connection. And overall, I think it improves the speed of business, from their customers to their employees to their operations and products. So establishing that digital feedback loop is how organizations can transform, can become resilient, and can unlock new value for their customers. The Microsoft Cloud is designed to address that need and offers really an integrated and differentiated technology stack that our customers are choosing to help them drive that purpose-driven digital transformation.
Great answer. That's great. So Roxy,
I
do you want?
had another question
Yeah, please.
as just leading from that question. And you've spoken about Microsoft partners. So what has been your experience of Microsoft partners' response to, I guess, the trials and tribulations of the last year?
Well, I think that there's not a single response, right? Every partner's in a bit of a different situation. Some partners needed to slow down, while other partners really sped up. We tended to overwhelm some partners with the demand and the volume, and some partners were really ready for that. I think those that have been most successful are the partners that have that customer obsession, that continue to put the customer at the core, and then figure out their own business model and how they engage in a different way all around that. Looking at the opportunities presented by the pandemic, the key things have been around remote work. How do you get your customers up and running remotely quickly? How do you ensure that they continue to have that business continuity and that level of resilience? And how do you then put everything in a bubble of security, whether it's their data, their users, and their data center and infrastructure that really extends much farther beyond the four walls of their organization, which is traditionally how organizations have thought about their security. And it has spurred many organizations to accelerate their cloud migration. And so those have been huge opportunities for our partners. And I have been so impressed with how innovative they've been and how they've responded to that. But I also recognize that it's really difficult for some partners, particularly smaller partners who really built their business around customer interface, to suddenly go all digital.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Stephen now.
Cheers. Yeah, I mean, I think that's you've covered an awful lot in those answers already. So it's so when I ask these questions, they might be a little bit of overlap, but I think that's okay.
That's okay.
So Gavriella, you've previously mentioned partners' roles as digital first responders certainly during the early months of the pandemic. I
Yeah.
wonder, could you first maybe explain a little bit about what a digital first responder is?
Yeah. So, when you think about all of the first responders, they're the first to the scene of an incident, right? The first there to risk kind of their livelihood in order to save the situation. And I've seen our partners really play that role. Put aside the normal contracting statement of work, kind of things that they would do in advance of actually engaging with a customer, and just saying, look, I know you need to get up and running fast. I know we need to just figure this out. Let's just do that. We'll worry about everything else later. And that has just been so amazing to see. I mean, we had partners in the beginning who were able to get customers up and running in like 24 hours, 72 hours, right, without that downtime. And it's just amazing how much they were able to bypass and kind of put their own interests on hold, knowing that they just needed to help these customers. And that has been more important than ever. And I have just been impressed with the innovation they've been able to bring to the table, the use of Power Apps to kind of plug holes and create new business process, the use of many of our security tools to help customers from their data, their users, their networks, their data centers, helping them shift cloud migrations that I think I mean, would have taken 6, 12, 18 months to plan out. I mean, they were able to do in a matter of a quarter, right? I mean, it's just been incredible speed, agility, and work. And I think, even to the point of, partnerships that have been forged through this, of partners banding together to really be able to take care of those customer needs. So again, I think that the best of our partners has come out through this, and something I hope to see continue, is really that level of customer obsession, and where these partners, to me, in my eyes, they come in as a hero, and they do amazing, outstanding things.
Absolutely. Do you want to give any shout outs?
There are so many.
Yeah.
I've tried to highlight some of those, through the blog, to help people understand just what I mean. But partners like Software One, partners like Insight, partners like Accenture and Infosys. I mean, they've just been able to bring so much to bear on behalf of their customers, and just skirt a lot of the things that would normally just get in the way.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Um, I shouldn't cough like that on a podcast. Um, I think it's really interesting. Obviously, this is such a monumental sort of past year that we've experienced, and we've all collectively experienced it. I wonder, in your opinion, what is the sort of, I kind of, I want to veer away from like the post-traumatic stress disorder sort of conversation, but how, I guess, how does, you know, how do partners then, how does their, will their role change at all? I suppose, will this digital first responder reaction, will that then, how will that sort of, in a post-pandemic world, will our partners roles change in what, in how they connect with their customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that their roles will change is, they have. I- I'm I'm assuming, based on the work and the innovation I've seen, really moved up in the eyes of the customer. They've really become that technology advisor, whereas before maybe they were just running the infrastructure, or they were just an outsourced provider or something. At this point, they really are building that technology roadmap for the customer. They're building at this stage, the next thing is an app modernization roadmap. All right, the first set of things was just about how do we just lift and shift everything you have so that we can continue that business continuity. But the second stage is, geez, now I have we can see all the applications you're running. This is pretty overwhelming in your environment, and I don't even know you need all this, right? So starting to help organizations to trim that back, to modernize their applications, to take advantage of kind of native cloud opportunity, and rewriting a lot of those applications, finding latest and greatest new applications, maybe cloud born applications, that really can scale up, that are really on a pay as you go basis. And so I think, as many companies come back to work and try to drive for their next gen, they're going to be focused on, okay, I've done a lot of things that, I think our customers have done a lot of things they had to do in the moment, right? They were in crisis, they had to do it, and in many cases, just pile more on, right? Do more on top of more on top of more. Now, what they have to do is rationalize that environment and figure out what is the best thing for us going forward, and how do we digitize and integrate what we need on a go forward basis, while still maintaining the things that we need to bring forward from the past. So I think, for our partners, their business really has fundamentally changed. Many of our partners were on that, they were on a slow journey across that chasm, right? Of moving from project services into more managed services, of moving from kind of upfront billing and sales into more of a consumptive model. This totally accelerated that. right? Because they are now kind of on a monthly billing, month to month with almost every customer, and so I think that really is the future.
Yes, right, and I guess that's really really interesting for all of us, I suppose. Um, it's clearly been a devastating year in most respects, I suppose, and certainly when it comes to industry, that's that's true as much as anything. Equally though, it's probably, and I find it weird to even say this, but it's like it's almost something of a great opportunity for Microsoft partners too. So you talk about that acceleration. Suddenly, what they've been saying probably for the last few years, um, which is you need digital transformation. Suddenly, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to say we told you so, but it's you know, do you? It is that there is that opportunity there, isn't there? I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly it's taken a lot less selling to customers, because the need, in it for change management to really occur and to accelerate, it takes a burning platform. This pandemic has been a burning platform for most of our customers, and I think the good news is that we had been already heading down this path with our customers and our partners. So our partners were ready. They had the kinds of services, they were building them. They were building those practices. They were building those applications in a cloud native environment. But this accelerated everything and accelerated the way they were doing it. And it accelerated the customer need so that it became this burning platform. And from a customer perspective, they short circuited a lot of their, kind of usual process to evaluate, to just say, well, okay, I just need that. So that has created a tremendous amount of opportunity for our partners, and you see that in the industry, you see that in their results, you see that in our results. Our results, 90% of what we do is driven by our partners. You see that in our results. They have been tremendously successful.
Fantastic. I suppose it would be sort of it would be a misstep for us not to talk about marketing. We're a marketing agency. This is a marketing podcast. Um, how do you see How do you see partners marketing fitting into all this? I suppose. What should their marketing strategy look like in 2021?
Well, so this has been the area where actually we have put the most effort into supporting our partners. Many of our partners, as you probably know, did not have a great digital marketing strategy, and really relied on that face to face with their customers, and they realized I need a different way to get the word out, to be clear, to be present, to be visible. And so, without sellers in the field, they got creative on how they reach customers. We created a more co-branded marketing content. We helped. We fortified our digital marketing stop within MPN to help them. We did a lot of kind of white label and co-marketing with them, and we've started to help really reimagine how they go to market, and I think you have as well, right? So I kind of turn it back to you and say, well, what have you seen? I am sure that many of them have come to you like, oh, okay, now I need a complete redo of how I do digital marketing, and it has to actually replace a lot of my salespeople.
Yes, that's a very interesting point about sales, right? I mean, I suppose since we're a digital agency, we tend to already see things through sort of digital blinkers, almost, I guess. So when I hear, buyers and sellers have gone digital, I think, of course they have. They have. I thought they did that years ago, but that's actually not really the case, is it? Certainly not for everybody. And I think, as you point out, like, certainly for smaller partners, perhaps. Obviously, a big lead gen for a lot of businesses is still going to be the traditional strategies, I feel. But like hosting events, I guess, is sort of the big thing, and attending conferences such as,
Yeah.
Inspire.
Yeah.
But obviously, right now, these strategies aren't available. So obviously I guess the opportunity for everybody is finding ways to sort of replace the traditional strategies. So
Yeah.
we've been saying kind of the same thing we've been saying for the last few years. Digital marketing is the future, suddenly it's become very real. So it's, you know, it's very much almost a sort of a mirroring effect of what partners are going through themselves. They've been saying digital is the future for their company or for their customers, and we're sort of saying the same thing. And this, as you said, this global pandemic has accelerated everything. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so we've seen a over 300% increase in partners utilizing that digital marketing benefit. We've seen a big trend in self-serve tools. Our campaign content syndication tool went from 65,000 co-marketing events to over 110,000. So what we've been trying to do is help partners to cut through that extra digital noise on the internet by leaning in on the Microsoft brand in their campaigns, by connecting to specific campaigns we may be running, and we've really fortified that through the marketplace, through our global demand center, and by giving them access to great partners like yourself.
Which is great for us. So that's, yeah, this is, I mean, it's all fascinating, I think. When we talk about how sort of marketing efforts have sort of changed a little bit to reflect sort of the current circumstances, I wonder, do you think there's been a shift in how partners need to talk about the technology that they're providing to their prospective customers?
I think that it has pushed them in the direction that we were trying to help them go, which is to focus on business outcomes, not to focus on the technology itself. To really think about and understand what is it the customer's trying to do, and then to put together the best solution possible on the back end for them. And like I said, I think part of that short circuiting of the usual process is that our normally customers would want to deep dive into exactly what is the recipe, what's going into it. And I think a lot of that short circuit was just, okay, so just tell me, okay, that sounds good, let's go, right? And so it is much less a focus on like the different piece parts and much more on the business outcomes, which again, I hope is something that persists. I hope it's something that that we take forward, because it is definitely a much better way of doing business.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Super.
Sorry, Stephen, did you have any other questions on that?
No, I think we covered an awful lot there. I think it's
I know.
that's really great. Yeah.
A great insight. I just wanted, if we could summarize everything, and from a marketing perspective, I guess, what is your single biggest advice for Microsoft partners in 2021 when it comes to their marketing?
I think my single biggest advice is hone in on your value proposition. If you do a search, you will go out and you will like read 50 other partners that sound exactly like you. That's not what you want. You need to make sure that what is differentiation about you, about your business, about your business model, about your engagement strategy, about the solutions that you deliver. Really hone in on a single thing that helps you really stand out, and capitalize on that. Make that your digital marketing platform. Be really clear about that platform, and put it in simple language. Do testing, do customer testing. Make sure that you are not talking tech, but that you are talking outcomes, and that it cascades into the service delivery that your customers see.
That's one great piece of advice. So thank you so much for that. It does bring us to the end of the podcast, sadly. But before we go, and just because we've actually realized that on Monday it's International Women's Day, and we know about your involvement for women in tech, so I was wondering if you could send a message to all women out there. Sorry, Stephen, you will have to listen to. But yeah, if there's a message for all women in tech that you'd like to send.
I think, my primary message to the women is you are not alone. Many times, many days, you will feel like you are the only woman in the room with no allies. You are not alone. We are all here for you, pulling for you, here to help you. And then what I would say, Stephen, to the men is be an ally. Be an ally to the women you work with. Make sure that you are giving them a platform and giving them an opportunity to participate, to speak, to be heard. I recently did a TED Talk on driving for gender equity, and the very simple framework that I created is become an ally, become a leader, and become an agent of change. We need you now more than ever to step up, because we have a declining curve of women in technology. That is absolutely the worst possible place to be. It's being exacerbated by the pandemic. It's being exacerbated by digital transformation. We need more women to come into technology and to thrive in technology and to take leadership positions. It's not just good for society, but it's good for business. So I would encourage everybody to become an agent of change and help us disrupt the status quo.
Wow, marvelous. Thank you so much. That's such a lovely message, and much appreciated as well. And this is the end of our podcast, and it was such an amazing conversation and an amazing podcast, and so lovely to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and I'm absolutely convinced that our audience will find our conversation super interesting and plenty of insights to take on board. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure. Just like writing the forward was always my pleasure, I think this was probably even more fun.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to Stephen as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Gavriella.